Alison Sargent joins me on the set to take a look at what papers have been saying today. Hi, Alison.
Hi, Jeannie.
In France, all of the focus is on the opening of this historic corruption trial of former President Nicolas Sarkozy.
That's right, Jeannie. A lot of papers are reminding us that this is the first time in the history of France's Fifth Republic that a former president has gone on trial for corruption. L'Union, this paper here, also notes that Nicolas Sarkozy isn't the only man on trial in this case. He's being tried alongside his friend and personal lawyer, Thierry Herzog, as well as the former senior magistrate Gilbert Azibert, who Sarkozy and his lawyer are accused of trying to bribe. Now, Libération has a headline today that people who are unfamiliar with this case might not understand. Bismuth, please rise. Now, they're actually making fun of Sarkozy here. Bismuth is a reference to the name Paul Bismuth that Sarkozy had a telephone registered under in order to have secret conversations with his personal lawyer. Investigators learned about the secret telephone when they tapped Sarkozy's actual phone line in order to investigate another case, because there are several cases ongoing against Nicolas Sarkozy. Additional wiretaps led them to the finding out that Sarkozy and his lawyer seemed to be bribing the senior magistrate. All of that phone bugging or wiretapping is why this has become known as the bugging or the wiretapping affair here in France.
Now, Alison, this trial isn't just being focused on in France, it's getting international attention too.
Yeah, The Guardian has an article focusing sort of on the political side of the case. The paper's Paris correspondent notes that Sarkozy's supporters have accused the National Financial Prosecutor's Office, which was created under Sarkozy's successor, François Hollande, of dispensing what they call political justice. Now, the paper also spoke to an editor of French website Mediapart, who said instead of responding to these accusations, Sarkozy's strategy has been trying to put France's justice system on trial and behaving like Berlusconi or Trump, in their words. For the Mediapart editor, this is a very crucial test for French anti-corruption judges, and it's also the biggest test they've ever faced.
Alison, there's been a lot written about a tragic story in Brazil. This is a black man who was suffocated by supermarket security guards.
Yeah, many papers are pointing out the echoes that his death has to the death of George Floyd in the United States back in May. This man, who most called Beto Freitas, was killed in the parking lot of a Carrefour supermarket. Now, video released shows security guards beating him and kneeling on him just minutes before he died. It sparked protests that the Independent rights echo those of the racial justice movement in the U.S. As we read in the Courrier International, Beto Freitas' death is being seen really as revealing an entire system of structural racism in Brazil. They note that it is somewhat ironically took place just a day after before Brazil's annual Black Awareness Day. The website also quotes an investigating judge who said that the death really characterizes a country that denies its own racism.
Let's go now to the United States, where Joe Biden is set to name his cabinet this Tuesday. Papers there are already reporting on one of his key picks.
That's right, Jeannie. This is his pick for Secretary of State. The New York Times is one of a couple papers reporting that Biden has chosen Antony Blinken, who served as the Deputy Secretary of State under Barack Obama. The paper here calls him a defender of global alliances. They say his extensive foreign policy credentials are really meant to help calm American diplomats and global leaders alike after 4 years of what they call ricocheting strategies and national swaggering under the Trump administration. The Financial Times, meanwhile, describes Blinken as a guitar-playing Beatles fanatic who first started promoting American values as a high school student in Paris during the Cold War, which brings us to a fun fact about him. He spent his high school years in France, and he does speak French.
Ooh, I bet a lot of French television stations are going to be jostling to get an interview with him. All right, Alison, let's wrap up now. Papers here in France are honoring two French resistance figures who passed away in recent days.
Yeah, the first one is Noëlla Rouget. She would have turned 100 years old on December 25th this year. Le Monde calls her a woman who taught humanity a lesson. The newspaper tells the story of how years after a French collaborator had Rouget deported to a concentration camp, well, she decided to save his life by preventing him from receiving the death penalty. She said she wanted to honor the memory of other resistance fighters by dreaming of a more fraternal world world. Now, the other resistance figure who passed away recently is Daniel Cordier, who was 100 years old when he died. He also leaves behind a message of tolerance. He was gay, and he wasn't open about it until very late in his life. He said it was a difficult thing to talk about for a man of his generation. In an interview with Le Monde before he died, he said, you know, if you're a girl and you like girls, that's great. If you're a boy and you like boys, that's great. It goes with the idea of freedom, and I fought for freedom. Freedom is also about being able to do what you want to do with your own body.
Allison, thank you for that. Allison Sargent there with that look at the press review. Live from Paris continues. Focus is up next with our look at student demonstrators in Thailand.